Welcome to Between Two Clinicians, the podcast that gives you a backstage pass into the mind of two therapists. I'm Talia.
I'm Adam Luke. We've spent years helping others navigate the complexities of their minds and relationships.
In this podcast, we're flipping the script, and we're sharing our own unfiltered insights. No topic is off limits, and no issue too taboo. We're ready to tackle the tough stuff with honesty and empathy. Let's dive in.
Well, welcome to part 2 of a conversation we sort of started, but now we're trying to end. And that is parenthood changes as children grow. So last time you heard us sit down and sort of talk about, and it's extremely difficult to start navigating aspects of parenthood when we're dealing with these little flesh blobs.
Yes.
So what do we do when the flesh blob actually starts talking and walking and developing into a miniature adult? How do we navigate this? And I'll tell you, it was funny because earlier this week, this was like really on top of my mind because I was working with a different family who is navigating they've sort of bookended their childhood development. What I mean is they've had their fourth kid. Their fourth kid is now aging out of toddler stage. You know, and so there's a lot to navigate there because you have a mom who's recognizing there's the end of being an infant mom, being a toddler mom. Yes. There's a dad that may also be extremely excited on the fact that most of his kids are having more engagement with him than he's ever had. Yeah. And how do you navigate this when there is such a grief and an excitement at the same time? So I do want to recommend you guys as you're listening to this, it's not all doom and gloom. It is, though, about pivoting to how do we find the joy in life looking a little differently than we've imagined it.
Yes, definitely. Yeah. And like you're saying, I can only imagine truly what that would be like in one family system to see the whole span of ages, as well as having the experience. I know sometimes when I work with parents, not all of them, but some of them are like comparing, sometimes overtly, but sometimes their internal expectation is, oh, well, this is different. They're trying to use like neutral language. This is different than it was with my other kid. And it's like, yeah, every child is unique. And we know that from every child who grows up, even in the same house, doesn't necessarily they have the literal same parents most of the time. Assuming that your parents are the same parents of every kid in the house, you get different ages of them, different maturity levels, maybe different stress levels. Maybe your parents were working when they had the oldest kid, but 10 years have spanned and now they're able to retire with a toddler. Like the version of our parents isn't always the same. So we're not raised by, in that sense, the same parents. It's fascinating to me. And again, I can only imagine what that's like when it's all in one household, because I mainly see it in the clinical office or in my friends' houses, and we don't therapize that, but there's just different parenting techniques and different grief and expectations.
Absolutely.
And depending on how old your kids are. So I think today being able to talk about some of those milestones that we might grieve, it being the last of fill in the blank, or happy it's the last of, being woken up and sleep deprived. Not that you'll never be sleep deprived with a kid, but the toddler, the newborn, if you're not.
There are definitely these stages that are going away, right? Like
exactly.
Jill and I sort of romanticize the idea of one day being done with diapers, but then it's inherently intertwined with that's our toddler phase, our infant stage. We love being able to have this little flesh blob that loves his bottle. Dear Lord. See, I am sleep deprived.
You're like, now that you mention it.
Yeah, the bottle, and, he's just so ooey gooey, smiley, happy baby. But that's going to change, all for the right things.
Yeah.
But here's where it gets tricky is, as a clinician, I've also seen severe regression when the parent is holding onto those reins too tightly. And the trouble with that is, like, your kid is developing. There's no way to stop that train. They're growing. We're replacing shoes and pants and T-shirts. You should also recognize that little mind is growing at that same pace. Yeah. So even though you may enjoy certain developmental stages of their life where you're like, oh, that was really easy and I really like that. Like, I'll never forget a mom once told me, like, I am not an infant mom, but I'm a toddler mom. And that really helped me understand that sometimes there's these rigid constructs in our mind of like, that's when I can be a good parent.
Yeah.
And that's what had to be pulled apart, is like, yeah, but are you willing to grow into the fact that, who knows, maybe adolescence is going to be a fun stage. Maybe young adulthood and high school is going to be a fun stage.
Mhm.
But if you're sitting there going, well, you know what, there was so much ease in the amount of control I had,
There it is. Yes.
that control turns into a certain level of toxicity.
And it also is not we I think touched on it the last time, when you parent little kids up till I would say 7 or 8, when the critical mind starts
Yeah,
to develop, like the discerning definition of that. They're like dogs. They're always excited to see you. They want to
for
cuddle.
sure.
They want to be. You're like, you're the most important person for a good
Absolutely.
majority, like that first chunk of their life. Let's just round
Mm-hmm.
it up to 9, and then socialization continues,
Yeah.
puberty happens, hormone changes, and moving into adolescence, it's
Mm-hmm.
much more like parenting a cat or being with a cat, where they let you know when they want you to
Meow.
come near, right? They need maybe more time in their room. It's not
Mm-hmm.
atypical. And this doesn't mean that there's a fault on the parent end.
No.
Your child, this is biologic and evolutionary. You want them
Mm-hmm.
to separate and individuate away from you and then
Correct.
eventually come back, but they need to go out and
Mm-hmm.
figure out who they are in
What
relation.
I'm going to do.
Yes. And if parents, you're saying, are still in that, well, I want to control them and I need them
Mm-hmm.
home every night and I want them home every weekend. And why are they smelly? Why are they rude? Why are they this? The most you can hope with, especially with adolescent boys, is to give them a ride somewhere and a hot meal. They're not going to want to necessarily stay at home. And if you're the exception to this,
Mm-hmm.
great. I'm not saying you have to change
No.
anything, force it to be the other way. But if you are in that more typical camp of
Yep.
they want to go gallivant around like a knight trying to conquer wherever their plot of land and life is, how can we have them do so safely? How can we be
Correct.
that guidepost and that fence around that they'll always have that soft landing
Mm,
place to come home to? Is the questions like we touched on last time we can dive into now. When kids are little, they ask you really little, they ask you why, because they don't know. They're learning the
correct.
world for the first time. Why is this? Why is that? And there's even more of a curious tone
Mm-hmm.
in their voice. Then it shifts into why more, what can I get away with? What can I test? Where are my
For
boundaries?
sure.
Where are my limits? Like, well, why? There's a bit more sass to it
Oh
sometimes.
yeah.
And then in adolescence, the goal is for us to, not in a sassy way, ask them why, but not to elicit
Mm,
shame, more of what makes sense for you. It's like a Socratic
correct.
questioning style of parenting. Well, I was thinking, and kids often come to us, well, I don't know about this and this and this and that. And we don't want to solve all their problems for them,
No.
helping them arrive at the answer. Well, what do you see your options as? Well,
Mm,
this, and that. Okay. And have you ever been through this before? If you have, which one did you use last time?
yeah.
Did it work? Right? Like teaching them how to think critically
Correct.
to arrive at their own decision, which may be
Mm,
different from yours, as long as it's not like a violation of health or safety or like other
correct.
people's consent. You have to let them make that decision and hope, have faith, it will
Yeah.
turn out well, and understand they're not supposed to be a mini you. So adolescence is, and I
Correct.
want your take on this next, adolescence is a lot of teaching them how to think critically. And then that later adolescence, early adulthood is often when kids, adults will come back and say, hey, I did this thing. So it goes from like, why, what should I do? Here's what I'm thinking about doing. Can I get your guidance? And then eventually in adulthood, they're like, oh, I did this thing. And we're not
Mm,
updating probably our parents all the time. That's where catching up with them can be positive experience. But you and I have done many episodes where some people just continue to, if it's too tense and suffocating when they're younger, they grow away and they don't want to share anymore. And maybe there is some estrangement or separation. If you're listening to this, that's not always, and that like that's not an inevitability. It's often
correct.
a byproduct of multiple years of the parent trying to convince the child, here's who I want you to be, and here's the only version of you I'm going to accept.
Mm.
If that's not the case, like be this way or I don't want a relationship with you, and then they're shocked.
And
Why
that's
don't
how
you
that that's
understand
how that is legitimately
me?
received by the child.
Yes,
The child,
yes,
like I've always said, childhood development needs to look more like guardrails than a cookie cutter,
right.
because a cookie cutter sort of gives that child a silhouette of what they're supposed to be.
Right.
Yet the last thing you need to actually introduce to any child that's in any form of development is the comparison game, because like there's actually a wonderful Bluey episode.
Oh, I love
Forget
Bluey.
what it's, I think it's Butt Shuffle
Mhm.
is the name of it. But what was interesting is the episode's premise is Bluey's mom is sort of telling a story about when Bluey was a really small baby and how Bluey was developing faster than all of her other friends. And there came a time where Bluey wasn't developing as fast as her friends. All of her other friends were walking, and she was butt shuffling in her movement, right?
Mm,
And it's a great episode, and you hear the mom pouring all of this energy and time and trying to get Bluey to do this thing. Nothing's working. There's a frustration. And then at the very end, Bluey decides to walk. And there's really no idea why she starts to decide to walk, right? That same metaphor and story applies to many different facets of a child's life,
mhm.
where we want something for them
Yeah.
more than they want at the moment. You
Mhm.
know, I see this a lot when I'm sort of working with maybe fathers who are starting to see athleticism develop in their children, and they're like,
Right.
perfect, like this is,
Mhm.
we got to get into travel ball and we got to do this, and they sort of ride out like the perfect routine to get to collegial sports. And it's like, but right now your son just wants to hit a ball with a bat. Like
Right.
that's all he wants to do. How do we navigate those things? The same thing goes into the process of like sociability. Like you can definitely be the guardrails. Oh, hey, say hi to Mr. So and so or hi to Mrs. So and so. But as soon as you start making an ultimatum or making it a
Mhm.
demand,
Mhm.
that's the moment that that child's going to actually step into recognizing I'm not doing it right, or daddy or mommy's love is transactional based off of my ability to hit their expectations.
Correct.
And like you said, that then normally bears itself into that child building distance. And then
Mhm.
you'll get the child of two homes, is what I like to call it, which is at the house, they're one way, and out in the world, they're in a different.
And that, yes, yeah.
And that's why like parents are like so shocked when they hear about their child outside of their house. It's like, well, your child is smart, stupid. And we all are.
They're clever.
We're extremely intelligent in knowing how to get our needs met in ways that require the least amount of conflict.
Mhm.
And so that's what they've done. They have found a way to sort of draw a circle around you and move on to the next thing. And so
Right.
no, you're not hearing the positive times of them sharing information, because they're thinking of all the times they shared with you something that was a milestone to them, and that you telling them that that was either not important or not as significant as they thought it was.
Yes, there's a sometimes unintentional invalidation, sometimes intentional, sometimes dismissiveness,
Mm-hmm.
or not to the news that is being shared or the truth that is being shared has been received well or differently at minimum by others, and the child, adult, whatever, we're just going to use child, not age related, but just
Yeah.
to one family system wise, that the child goes to their parent, no matter how old, and is like, hey, I either want to do this thing or I did this thing. And is the parent meeting them with
Mm-hmm.
intense criticism? Is the parent meeting them with a turning against or turning away, like we talk about in couples
Mm-hmm.
therapy, where there's a bid for connection and the parent is not meeting it?
Correct.
Oops, I'm sorry. And then the kid says it again and they're
Mm-hmm.
like, I was distracted, my bad. That's a repair that won't
Mm-hmm.
have as lasting of negative consequences. But if the
True.
parent meets them with criticism or is like, yeah, I heard you, I really don't care, ouch. And then the kid goes, well, I don't get what I'm wanting from you,
Yeah.
and so I'm going to further distance myself, and I'm going to
Correct.
go towards people and peers and other
Mm,
groups that support me, that are aligned with where I want to grow into, especially when it's different from what my parents expect of
yeah.
me. I was listening to a clip of a podcast, I think it was 2 days ago, and the therapist was talking to the client. The client was the host, and so she was sharing her own session. And she said her therapist interrupted her and said, when you're talking about your family, which family are you talking about? And
Yeah.
she's like, oh, my parents. And she goes, that's not your family anymore. That's the family.
Ah.
We've talked about that. That's the family you came from, not the
Yep.
family that came from you. And a majority of conflict problems is that invisible loyalties we've talked about, or the
Absolutely.
double bind that people, when they do not individuate, parents, this is a PSA, this will transcend into your kids' partnership and marital problems or relationship problems, because they are going to feel either so against their family of origin and have no problem bonding with their spouse because they're like, yeah, I'm not connected to them. I'm going to do what I want, whether they like it or not. That's either like hyper individualism or individuation. The other thing is, well, I can't because my parents, if you are over 20, maybe if they're bankrolling your life, you have to kind of get preference, but like that should not be what you filter decisions off of. Subconsciously, being raised with morals and values your parents bestowed on you, by that logic, we make decisions kind of with their influence, but we're talking about like not active influence, meaning going to your parents and being like, at 35, my wife or my husband or this and that. No, like you have to be able to prioritize the family that you came from. You, that is your family, and that's the decision that you are going to be, or that's the family you're basing your decisions off of, not your family of origin. So this whole parenting, as the kids get older, we want to, as bittersweet as it is, our job is to raise our kids so they don't need us, that they can rely on us and depend on us. That's different, but that they don't need us to function, because what happens when we're not there, literally or like metaphorically or literally, if we pass away, we don't want to leave them up Schitt's Creek without a paddle. I don't personally. And if we're not accessible, meaning we're not there accessibly, how are they going to problem solve? If they try and call us and we're not available, and we are typically, right? Let's say we hit the mark, we're not there because we're in a meeting or whatever else, right? We're not always available all the time.
Correct.
How are they going to problem solve? Do they have other adults they can call? Do they have another parent that they could call? Could they ask for help? Are they able, like, those are the skills that are our job to implement and instill in them from when they're younger. Just like teaching them how to dial 911 and wipe their butt and all that, and brush their teeth.
True.
All of these are basic life skills that our generation is much more adept at compared to previous generations, where I need you to depend on me for my own gratification. That is not how I suggest parents parent. I need you to parent expecting your child to fly the coop and want to come back, not feel obligated to. Hey there, listeners. Are you tired of settling for less than you deserve in your relationships? Do you ever feel like you're not being seen, heard, or valued the way that you want? Or maybe you've been wondering why you keep attracting the same kinds of people into your life, or why certain patterns seem to repeat themselves in your relationships. The answer might be deeper than you think, and you can find it in my new course. Rewire Your Relationships is a transformative course designed to help you stop settling for less than you deserve and start embodying your most confident, assertive, and authentic self in your relationships. You'll explore how your early experiences and parental influences have shaped your views on love, dating, and self-worth. This isn't just about tips and tricks for dating. It's about understanding the core beliefs that drive your relationships that you attract. You'll learn how to break free from those old patterns and start creating the kind of connections that truly reflect who you are. Imagine stepping into a relationship with clarity and confidence, knowing you're attracting people who value and respect you for who you really are, your deeply authentic self. The Rewire Your Relationship course gives you the tools to rewrite your relationship story, one where you're no longer settling, but thriving. Visit taliabombola.com/rewireyourrelationships or check the link in the show notes for more.
There is definitely this experience that happens, sort of like the people, I'm just trying to think, because some people are going to be triggered by what I'm saying, but there's this devouring parent aspect.
Yes.
Where it's very parasitic, which basically I'm raising a child that's continually sort of validating my needs.
Yeah.
And those needs are validated based off of their dependency on me.
Yes.
Yeah. And so something that I wrestled with like a client earlier this week was I had to share, like, the hardest thing about being a parent is recognizing that you put one child to bed at night and you wake up with a completely new child the next morning. And the client didn't take it well. Was like, that's my point. Like, it's heartbreak. And I was like, is it, or is it adventure and excitement?
Depends on your perspective.
It can absolutely be a process of grief.
Yeah.
But then I'm also extremely excited to meet the new word of the day, or the new behavior, or the new inflection point, or the new empathy. Because I see this in my daughter all the time. All of a sudden, boom, massive change happens, and it's only been a 24-hour period.
Yeah.
you know, her focus right now is just being able to identify emotions.
Mm.
And so it's funny because you feel like you're walking around with a little like magic 8 ball, because all of a sudden she'll poke you and she'll be like, "Are you sad?" And it's like, oh, it's interesting. She's watching facial expression, she's watching you navigate things, and you just sort of holding that space of like, you could, oh no, well, actually, yeah, daddy was thinking about this, or dad, you worried? Like,
Yeah.
I'm do not be the parent that shuts them down because they don't need to know this stuff. They don't
Yeah.
need to know the whole story, but at times you
No.
could say, yes,
Yes.
I am not feeling good. Oh, I'm
Hmm.
not, like, we got hit hard with um, a sickness last week, and
Oh.
it took us down. And um, I'll never forget, I was telling Jill, like, I'm really hurting. And Lorelai turned and she's like, Daddy hurting? Daddy hurting? Daddy okay? And
Mm.
it was like, yeah, Daddy is hurting, but it will be okay.
Hmm.
And then all of a sudden she felt okay to start sharing with us, like, oh, she's not feeling well.
Right.
So
Right.
we took it very seriously this morning when she said, I don't feel well. I
Hmm.
was like, okay, all right, let's go to the doctor.
Hmm. Let's get it checked out. Yeah. And to your point, not having our child be emotionally aware and emotionally attuned to themselves or to others, like basic empathy or more intermediate or advanced empathy, not this whole I'm an empath, I feel what, that's not what I'm talking about. We're not trying to raise little codependent people, hopefully, but being able to delineate if they do pick up on an emotion or they see us. Right? I've cried in front of her before. She'll ask, why
Mm,
is mommy sad? And I'll keep it general. I feel overwhelmed, or my hormones are really not being kind to me today, and I'm
okay.
not sure what's going on, but my body was like, maybe you should cry and you'll feel better. And I said, and you know what? I do. So like I talk to her like
Absolutely.
that, and I'll see her kind of like ingest and orient and go, oh, okay. Like I woke up and I had a screw in my tire today, and I wanted to lose my stuff, but I didn't, my SHIT, and I was holding her and I was looking at the tire and I check all of them. I'm like, oh, we're good. Maybe it was just a sensor malfunction.
Mm,
And then I look and I was like, oh my gosh. And this whole cascade of what I was going to do. She's like, can you get me out of the car? And I'm like, yeah, she has no clue, not her responsibility. I get her out and I'm like, do you want to see what I was looking at? And she goes, yeah. So I kneel down and I show her and I was like, that's not supposed to be there. And she was like, oh, no worries. Screws happen. Because that's how I talk about boo-boos and this, like she's in
true.
I'm
True.
so proud that that's how she's internalized it. She goes, we can fix it. And I was like, you're right. We can fix
We
it.
absolutely can.
And so we went into problem solving mode. And then there was a later on, because I was trying to get help and it was frustrating, whatever. And you're not supposed to be on your phone because it's like a very nature based school. If you've ever
Yeah.
seen Wanderlust with Paul Rudd, it's like that level of granola, which is great. But I own it. I was not my best self today. And so I had to take her outside because I had stepped out, but she was concerned. So she was like at the door, and the
Yeah.
teacher's like, why don't you just take her out with you? We'll shut the door. I said, great. I'm on the phone. I'm getting frustrated because the person who's trying to help me couldn't find this thing. I sit her down. It wasn't her fault. And I said, I want to say that I'm sorry because I'm feeling a lot right now and I
Hmm.
feel overwhelmed, and that's not on you, but you're sensing it,
Absolutely.
right? And she was like, yeah. I was like, it's not you. It's a me
Yep.
thing. And I'm realizing talking to you, like it's not an emergency.
Mm,
Like it'll be okay. She goes, it's okay. And even that co-regulation, because she
oh,
could
yes.
sense there's distress, there's disconnect.
Hmm.
This starts early, right? The point of these stories is this
Oh,
starts
yes.
early, that this is implemented in our kids moving forward. So this is the way they talk to themselves. If she spills
Correct.
something, if she drops something, you mentioned it too, we hear, oops, no worries, or I can clean it up, or it's okay,
Yeah.
right? That the fact that they speak to themselves that way,
Hmm.
rather than probably how I know I got, flying off the handle from my parents, this and that. Jesus
Oh,
Christ,
yeah.
well, expletive in the Bible or the book, you're not supposed to combine. And that was how I've had to rewire.
Oh,
Sure, are
yeah.
there days where she's not here that I'm like, son of a fine, but that's just at me. I work on it. How we
Correct.
talk to our kids, also that parenting through the ages, that becomes their inner voice. So we
Yep.
need to be congruent with how we talk to and about ourselves and others, as well as how we talk to about our children,
Mm,
whether that's, and I'm not saying behind their back like in a surreptitious way, that's never ideal, but we want our kids to overhear us being proud of them and being excited for
yeah.
them, in awe of them. And if they walk up and we're talking about them, they can beam and be excited
Mm,
rather than feel like, oh, I'm bothering my parent, or I'm a burden, or I'm annoyed. And
yeah.
kids are developing theory of mind. So anything that they do, they think it's their fault or because of them.
Mm,
This is great because of me. This is terrible because of me. It's our role to help them discern. No, very few things as a child is actually your responsibility, right? Like letting me
hmm.
know about the bathroom is even something that we have to learn and share.
Absolutely.
So it's our responsibility as the parent. We share with our child, then we bestow whatever level upon them and increase it
Mm,
as they get older. They feel a sense of competence and agency, like we talked about with
yeah.
Eric stages, rather than this is everything's my responsibility. You never have to do anything.
Mm,
We rob them of that, or we put all of that responsibility
yep.
on them way too young. They feel parentified and adultified. They never get to have a childhood.
Yep.
And they're 30 or 40 resentful that their partner is maybe not having a normal level of like, well, why don't we share this? And they're like, no, I've been doing this for 30 plus. I've been doing this as long as I've been alive. No, I don't want to be an adult
Mm,
anymore because they've been an adult for 30 years rather than I'm kind of sick of being an adult, but I had to become an adult at 20 or 25 or 26 when you get off your health insurance from your parents. Like, don't
oh
rob
yeah.
your child of their
World comes at you quite fast when you turn 26,
right.
right?
But
Like there's a
raising
whole
your kid and
yeah.
prepping them, can we give them age appropriate responsibility and sense of duty and agency as they get
Hmm.
older? Kids are actually even little kids are very competent and capable. We just
Extremely resilient.
assume it's childism, right? We assume
Mm,
that they aren't, and we rob them of a chance to learn. So as long as it's not a health or safety like huge concern,
correct.
let them try freely and safely being there and increase that level of responsibility agency as they get older. They will want to
Yeah.
come back to you. They will come to you for feedback, guidance, to share in joy or sadness, and to be able to be there for all of their big emotions
Hmm.
because they witnessed us caring for ourselves in all of our big emotions and not putting it on our kid or
Correct.
making them responsible. That's how we can look forward to adolescence and adulthood rather than dread it. I know that's something I work on
Correct.
in my therapy. I had a rough adolescence. It
Mm,
was very divisive, and I have a not a fear, but like a wouldn't love it if this happened
yeah.
feeling. I don't want to go through that with my daughter.
Correct.
I can't know the future, but I'm
Yeah.
trying most everything reasonably in my power or my sense of
Mm,
control, my like duty, whatever, my like
yeah.
agency. I'm trying to implement what I foresee or have been
Mm,
told or research supports is least likely to elicit the negative
correct.
outcome and most likely to elicit a positive. And you know what?
Mm,
We won't know for a while, but I do know what I'm
correct.
working on now, just like you, is helping.
Yeah, I mean, a thought that was popping into my head while you were talking is we don't recognize enough that sometimes overprotection is actually communicating a lack of faith in our kids. So it it's funny because when you start talking about allowing your kids to have certain freedoms or allowing kids to sort of run around without helmets and knee pads, everyone assumes that you're saying take your 3-year-old bungee jumping. And that's not necessarily what we're saying. What we're actually talking about, though, is the way that you communicate to them by what you believe they cannot do for themselves becomes the standard that they accept for themselves. So that's why, like right now, like a tremendous amount of my work is working with family trusts where I have adult children who don't know how to function. And that's it. In many cases, I turn to the parents and I say it's actually less about them and more about you.
Mm-hmm.
Like this is actually what we've been programming to get to, which is there's been such a high reliance and dependency on the enmeshment of the family
Right.
that they don't know how to differentiate. They don't know how to do their own things because they've largely been bubble wrapped. And yeah, you've stunted them developmentally when it comes to how they're going to find partners, how they're going to navigate relationships, how they navigate difficulty, because they've also watched how you've navigated all those things. And you may have thrown yourself into strategic disassociations. You know, everything can be fixed with a cruise or a
Mm-hmm.
month in wherever.
Mm-hmm.
But the reality of the situation is we didn't teach resiliency. So,
Correct.
like, do I get stoked when I watch my little girl go run and drop her knee across the asphalt and no. But I'm also unwilling to move into a spot where she's not able to do things because she is being told, we don't believe you can do that. We were navigating something recently where it's like we had a big ice storm back here. Right. We have a creek in our backyard. I've gotten to the point where when I'm with her, I'm tired of telling her, like, don't go near the creek, because she is much more of a tactile, experiential learner. Okay, so I watched her get close. I said, you see the edge? Yeah, I see the edge. Okay, perfect. Sure enough, she went into the creek, right? Now, the creek's not white rapids. She wasn't going to die. We're 100 yards from the house.
Yeah.
So guess what? She goes in. Cold. Yeah, baby, it is cold. Should we go inside? Yeah, guess what now? When we walk by the creek, she has a better understanding of the creek. She's not afraid of it, but she understands. She doesn't go next to that edge anymore.
Right.
And it's just funny because how many times in our lives we're saying, don't go to the creek, don't do this, don't do this. She learned it, and then all of a sudden it becomes tactile, it becomes tangible, and boom, the adjustment happens. So sometimes the loving your children, actually allowing them to feel the road of life with you being present to say, I can hold on to the big things. Like what you feel is going to be temporary inconvenience or pain, but it's just temporary.
Hopefully most everything is. And what you just shared brings up a huge core tenet with a parenting philosophy. When I used to teach intro to psych and the other class, like of effective behavior, I would start with parenting skills, permissions versus injunctions. So permissions are how our subconscious actually learns best, because our subconscious mind can't process no or don't.
Yeah.
Where if you tell a kid, don't lean back in your chair, their brain hears lean back in your chair, rather than giving them. So an injunction rather is no, stop, don't. A permission is please do this instead. And often humans, especially women, but humans are raised best not meaning like optimal for mental health, but in terms of eliciting the response the person wants. If we're parenting based off of injunctions, we as an adult, hopefully developed frontal lobe, know how to translate, don't do this instead. But we're setting our kids up for failure then and in the future to have to translate. Why don't we give them what we want instead? Stay away from the creek. The creek is cold if you fall it, right? Like even describing it like that, which she did discover. Now she can make that connection. Don't go near the creek means this. But if we take that example and set it for your younger kiddo or other or parents listening to this, what do you want them to do? And that's how they will then language their life to other people around them. I need help with this rather than stop doing that. We don't know what the person wants instead. And how many marital couples do you and I work with where she's like, I have told him, not to be gender biased, like I have told him what I want. And he's like, no, you literally just told me what to not do. Frustrated. I'm aware, and we're all adults, so please just decipher. But we would all be better off knowing what do I want? What are my permissions rather than the injunctions? And to your point, teaching them like that from an early age is how they'll give themselves permission moving forward. What can I do? What do I want? What are the positive sides of things rather than no, stop, don't? That's where things are too controlling and they're left to their own devices to figure out, what do I do instead? If we're parenting them, here's what to do. I don't need to focus on what not to do. Touch the pan here. Touch the pan here. And I just repeat, touch the pan. He touches it, right? Little singe. How did that feel? Ow. Where did I tell you to touch? Here. So where are we going to touch next time? Here, right? Here. A lot of reinforcement and not changing that root sentence, especially when they're younger. It's too much for them to process. It does help that, like you're saying, next time. So that just brought up, as we wrap, like a PSA to parents, please parent with permissions. Tell your children how they what to do and keep safe and what to do. Adults filter injunctions far better. Children do not. They internalize it and they don't know where to go with it. So then they try something again, and it's still not good enough for us, or it's still not what we were asking them. Then they feel defeated. They try another, then they feel futile. They don't have autonomy because they're like, oh, just tell me what you want. And we're like, figure it out. Right. And you can avoid all of that by being with yourself. Then whoever you're talking to, please do this. Please do this. Please start this. Please move it here. Please touch it here. Not the no, stop, don't. And that's a daily thing for me to have to translate. It's like learning a second language. I catch myself. I'm like, what if we touch it here instead? Right. Exactly. Or this is hot. So and then sometimes I'll be like, we're not going to touch it here hot. We will touch it here cold. So you can include it like that, but don't, I know I'm belaboring the point. Don't set anybody up for failure by only giving them negative. Set them up for success by giving them.
And what's funny is, like, as you described that, you also described like the perfect therapy session.
Yes.
Because a lot of times when clients walk away and they're like, oh, I'm just so stressed out. Why? Because we spent the whole time identifying what not to do. And then we didn't implement any permissions.
Right. Yeah. Don't be with a person.
Like, trust me, you can't stand this in your own life.
Right.
That's why let's not use that as a primary communication strategy with our kids.
Yes.
If you're just identifying what not to do and you aren't actually encouraged to do anything that could positively change the situation, that does feel like hopelessness.
I need to know what you want or what you need or what would be helpful. This helps prevent people pleasers. This helps prevent chronic disappointers. It helps prevent weaponized incompetence with a lot of parents don't realize they're teaching their kids, boys especially, they're teaching their kids, well, it's just so much better when you do it. You're so much better at it. It's so much easier. The underfunctioner benefits, and the overfunctioner I learned I needed to do all of this, and they usually partner with it. We'll just do another episode on that next time, because I feel like that's a natural lead in where this really goes, like the parenting from childhood to adolescence, where this looks like an actual adulthood in terms of relationships.
Absolutely.
This might be a part 3, and then I promise the conversation will be over, but this does lead to it. If you do
absolutely.
Do it based off permissions, you'll have a successful partnership. If you parent based off injunctions, your kid is going to be coming to you still enmeshed, probably, because they're like, I don't know what to do. Set your kid up for success. Tell them what to do, please.
Absolutely. You do not want your 30-year-old showing up for lunch money.
No, or other things. So yes, we'll pause here. Thank you very much for being flexible, listeners and Adam. And we'll see you again in a couple of weeks.
In 2 weeks.
Yes. Thank you so much for listening to another episode of Between Two Clinicians. We would so appreciate if this episode resonated with you, for you to share it with somebody, and also find your favorite podcast platform and like, rate, and subscribe to the podcast. We would love to attract more listeners just like you and have this message be spread to whoever needs it. So thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you next time.